Whiskey People, episode number 10. Wow, 10 episodes already. I've been having a blast so far, and this episode is no exception. I sat down with Cruz, bartender at Atomic Liquors, brand ambassador for Mestizo Mezcal, council member on the United States Bartenders Guild Las Vegas Educational Committee. She chats about her path from a tequila-centric bar to a craft cocktail, whiskey bar, to kind of a hybrid beer craft cocktail bar with amazing food, to where she has landed now, a bar with a bit of all that, and they're firing on all cylinders, amazing bar, Atomic Liquors in downtown Las Vegas. We chat about her experience with being a woman in the beverage industry, her experience at cocktail weeks, her love of cats, shady tattoos in Oaxaca. We taste a few fun whiskeys. We tasted Jameson Caskmates KelSo Brewery Pale Ale Edition, and Aberlour A'bunadh, which is a cask strength sherry bomb from Speyside and happens to be one of my all-time favorite scotches on the entire planet. Not for the faint of heart, but absolutely delicious. So grab a dram, slow down life for a little bit, and enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
The Whiskey Talkin' Podcast.
All right. Welcome, Whiskey People, to Whiskey Talkin' Podcast. Today we have Cruz, mixologist, brand ambassador. You don't like mixologist, bartender. Okay. Let's play her intro music first, and then I'll say. So she picked this out herself. So here we go.
Cats, the cutest things on earth.
Dance. Cats like mouses,
What?
cats like meat, cats like boxes, cats like sleep, cats like lasers, cats like running, cats like birds, cats like kitty go, kitty go, kitty go.
I don't know.
This is not my song, Cody. You
All
had
right.
one job. You had one job.
All right. She didn't actually pick this. Here's hers. This is actually true.
Let's go, girls.
You ready for this? Cruz, bartender, maybe a mixologist, brand ambassador for Mestizo Mezcal. Doing some things. You've been in the mixologist role though. You just don't dig that.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I do other things. Like that's not like the focus.
Perfect.
I like to make the drinks. Serve the people.
The drinks.
The drinks.
You're more a bartender. I get it. Like, it was funny when that started. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not a mixologist. And it's actually like a pretty, it's a historical term.
Right.
But it has this element of like.
The connotation with it is
Yeah,
just a little.
Yeah, I agree. Welcome. This is going to be
Thank
fun.
you.
We're
Yeah.
tasting a couple, finally got an Irish and getting some more scotch on the episode. So that'll be fun. Let the people know your story and how you came to Vegas and kind of your path to where you are now.
All right. Well, I grew up here. Went to college up in Reno, UNR, studying journalism.
Nice.
And I mean, I liked it, but I really liked the bartending more. I was so eager to, really get my foot in the door. So I started being a barista, which was fun.
I've had, there's an episode with Eddie Gunn that I had on here.
Yeah.
And he started kind of in that realm. That's cool.
I mean, and honestly, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of a mixologist. I mean,
It's a great place to start. I think it's a really good place
it
to
was
start.
fun. I was like, let me whip you up a coffee.
Yeah.
And it was great. But I worked at, I did like the 6 a.m. shift, which I just have no idea how I did that. Just can't.
That's like sink or
Can't do
swim
it.
though. Like just because you are not a 6 a.m. person
No,
or because
I'm
it's so
not.
freaking busy.
Both.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
I
just-
like the busyness of it, but I mean,
Ugh.
me at 6 a.m. too is I am not pleasant.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And when you're serving coffee, you kind of need to be like what are we doing today? Good morning. And
Yeah.
oof. But I was working at the VA hospital. They had a little like coffee cart there, and there was this guy who would always come in. He was the owner of a nightclub. And he really just, we got along well. And I was like, hey, you own this nightclub. I am looking to bartend.
Nice.
And he gave me his card. And I remember.
Why bartending though? Like, what was the draw?
Well, my parents are both bartenders.
Oh.
And I mean,
Ah.
I just I've always wanted to do it. I just always had that draw to it. And at one point, so my dad, he bartended and he did like Broadway and stuff in New York. That was
Wow.
like his thing. And I was just so desperate to do that too. I was like, yeah, Dad, I don't mind eating raviolis out of a can and, doing the dancing and the bartending in New York. And I quickly came to, it's like really not.
No, it's not.
He was like, please, for the love of God, do not do that.
Pick a different path.
So like, okay, I'll go into journalism, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Still found my way, wanting to do the bartending. But I wrote the email out and I was just, I don't care. Don't even pay me. I just want to learn. Just teach me, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Called me in for an interview. I was so freaking excited. I was like blasting music in my car. Just like could not believe that. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
The interview was at midnight on a Friday night.
Perfect.
And I'm like, I don't know what to even wear.
Type of interview is
right.
this?
I'm like, what kind of crap is this? I'm like nervous. And one of my friends, I'm like a server at the time as well, and she's the bartender. And I was like, dude, so what should I do? Like, I don't know what to wear. What do you wear for a midnight interview? I'm like, ugh. So she like let me all of her clothes. I'm wearing like these stiletto boots. It's supposed to be fun and professional.
Same thing as my first interview.
Right. I figured as much. And it's Reno and it's like January. And so there's snow everywhere. And I remember just like trying to find this building in my stiletto boots that are hers. And it was a nightmare. It was so bad. But anyway, just kind of like gave my spiel. And they said that they're only hiring for barbacks, but they don't hire girl barbacks. And I was like, oh, well, let me show you. At the time, I'm also like 80 pounds and like short and just like, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, throw me in. Yeah. And they did. And dude, it was rough. Yeah. Like I barbacked for 3 bars there. And I mean, it's, it's the ice and the mats and all the beers and bottles. It's none of this can business that we're doing now, lugging it from, bar to bar. And man, it was brutal. Yeah.
It's tough. Even for, I mean, I had a tough time right when I started barbacking. It was a rude awakening of like what, like everyone thinks like bartending, barbacking, you're in a bar, it's going to be so fun. You just talk to people. And bartenders can have it easy depending on the bar.
Depending on the bar, absolutely.
I mean, it's funny because I'll talk to people all over the country. We're a little more spoiled, especially in certain higher end places in Las Vegas or the Strip, especially if it's like Union. It's like, it has to be. Yeah. But you'll talk to other places. They're like, no, we have, how many ever seats? Barback, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, right. This is barback you speak of.
Yeah, but paying those dues, man, there's something to be said about how that sharpens your hospitality and makes you appreciate not only, because I've seen bartenders, 21-year-old bartenders right off the bat, just, and that's fine. I've seen good ones. Yeah. But you can tell when you talk to them and see how they interact with some people where it's like, oh, you've never had to do that. Like, you haven't, So you got through that. Yeah. And it was rough. I mean, I just actually, Jake and I were just talking about like having like thick skin and stuff behind the bar. Yeah. And like, we were trying to remember like the last time somebody had said something that really just like irked us or like made us feel a certain way. I'm like, I can't remember. Like nothing can get to me now. There's not a single thing that you can say. I'm guest, coworker, boss. I don't care. Like I'm not going to lose it. But I remember that job, going to the cooler and just crying because like the owner was mean because he was like, he kind of wanted me to quit. He's like, there's no way that you're gonna do this, right? And so like at the end of the night I had to take all of the trash from the entire club and put it in like a little buggy, go down like the freight elevator, take it down to the alleyway downtown Reno, like 5 a.m. It was not safe. Okay. This is not a good idea. So took the trash out and I couldn't complain. I couldn't because, one little complaint and to be like, well, told you couldn't do this. So you kind of, from the beginning, kind of had that like extra motivation, like, that chip. I did. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do my job. So you can yell at me. You can make fun of me. I don't care. I'm just going to do my job. Yeah. And thankfully, like, those bartenders, they were super dope. I'm still really good friends with all of them. And cool. They were in the USBG up there. Okay. And so they got me to join. I was like, oh, wow, this is actually kind of cool. Yeah. I remember, like, my first event was with Diageo, and they took us out to Lake Tahoe, and, like, a whole weekend of just, like, seminars and events and parties. And I'm like, okay, so is what the USBG is? Like, what? It's a pretty good first event. Right. Yeah. It was amazing. And so from then on, I mean, I just dove into it. I was like, oh, I want to do, like, everything. So they kind of trained me to bartend at the nightclub.
but they still wanted me to bar back. So
Okay.
it was like one of those things. I was like, well, you're doing so well, so we'll just give you a bank, you know. And I'm like, okay, so I have to do everything that I'm doing right now and then serve drinks.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was not a great deal. That did not work out really well.
No.
I was just exhausted, you know. And then I was also serving at a restaurant, and I was still doing my 6 a.m. Coffee shift. So,
Jesus.
dude, there was a couple days where I did all 3 jobs in one day. It was like 6 a.m. to like 11 at the coffee shop, and then I would do like 12 to 7 at the restaurant serving, and then I would do like 9 until like 5 in the morning.
So like 24 hours.
Yeah, it was just stupid.
Yeah, that's
stupid. But hey, man, builds
went through it?
character.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, there's nothing now that I feel like I'm like,
a double?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See if I can do that.
Yeah.
But I started finally bartending at the restaurant I was working at, and we had one of those like little black book things for like the cocktail recipes.
Yeah.
And when it was slow, I would just like read through like the
Was it the
intro.
actual Bartender's Black Book edition?
I can't remember. It was something.
I have it somewhere. It's funny because it's where it has different editions.
No,
okay.
I mean,
Because
maybe.
there's one actually called like Bartender's Black
Right.
Book.
I think it might be. It had like little spirals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would just go through and I would just read through like the intro because it would talk about how to make a perfect Manhattan and how to do that. I remember that was the first drink I learned how to make. And in the book, it said to crack the ice with like the back of the spoon. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like practicing this.
Oh, I never read
behind
that.
the bar.
I was like looking up like Surfer on Acid and shit.
Oh, God.
Like someone would come to the bar and order it, and I would have it underneath the bar. So I'd be like, oh, I'm just looking for ingredients.
Yeah, where's that one thing?
You're going in the back. You're just like, oh, I got all the stuff in the bag. I'll be right back. And then you're like searching this book. Yeah. No, but you were like
I was.
Like
I
you
really
wanted to learn the right way.
Oh yeah. So this nightclub, our sister bar was this gay bar down the road, and that was like where we'd go for our shifties and whatnot. And you know, our buddies worked there, obviously. And so I remember after I learned how to do this like cracking ice technique, I was like, okay, guys, just like let me back there. I want to make a Manhattan. So I made my first Manhattan. Customers are like, what is she doing? Why is she hitting like her hand with like this spoon?
Why is she touching our ice?
Why is she touching our ice? What is this?
Yeah.
Completely like thrown off. Did not like me.
The fact that you could break ice in a bar, because like every bar that I worked in early on was like pillow ice, like complete shit.
Oh no,
but
no,
you still tried.
Oh yeah.
Or you still did it.
Yeah. I'm not saying this is like some great ice program we had in downtown Reno.
So you were like breaking pillow ice. Okay.
Yes.
Very cool. Now it's all coming together.
Yeah, some classy stuff.
But still, you're going through the motions at least.
Yeah, but I was just I wanted to learn so badly, and so yeah, I did that. I worked at another place up there. I just kind of was bartending, and I really wanted to make the move, like to come to Las Vegas and just kind of take a beat and just kind of figure, because I wanted to go to New York eventually. So I'm like, come back down here. I hated it growing up, so I'm like, I'll just be here for like a little bit, 2 years max. Well, 4.5, 5 years later.
Vegas happens.
But I really wanted to come down here with a job. So I'm in Reno. I'm like setting my resume out. I'm applying for these jobs and whatnot. And I get a call and an interview for a place called Jalisco Cantina. Yeah. And I remember did the interview over the phone.
What was it on? Durango?
There were 2, Durango and Sunset. For the Southwest. Yeah. And then Sunset and Pecos. Okay. And so the only position they had available was graveyard. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm a night owl. Yeah. Dude, that was so rough.
Was it just that there was no one there, or the clientele, or just a little bit of everything?
It's just kind of how it was. And so that's what they had available. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll do it. It's a job.
So because it was kind of slower and it wasn't like your ideal position, is it the USBG that kind of helped you progress to your next spot?
Yeah. So I had some cool regulars came in at Jalisco, some unexpected regulars. There's one fellow, his name was Jake Davenport, I think. Yeah.
Never heard of him.
He lived across the way, and he worked at the Wynn, and he would come in after his shift, and this place was a tequila place. So we had about 130 different tequilas. I was just like blown away. I was obsessed with. And I remember my first shift, I asked the bartender who was training me, I'm like, hey, like, is there some kind of like manual or something I can refer to if someone has a question?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you know what? Don't worry. All tequila tastes the same. I was like, oh,
and this is
so
the
this
manager.
is where we're at. Yeah. I'm like, so
Yeah.
this is where we're at. And it's a gaming bar, you know, and whatever. So I was like, well, that's not good enough for me. So I started creating a tequila manual. I still have it somewhere in my car, I think. But I wrote down every tequila we had, and then I got tasting notes for each tequila. I created like a little recipe, or I looked up a recipe. I did fun facts for every single tequila that we had.
Wow.
And it was a lot of work. But I mean, graveyard was slow. Who cares?
Right,
but
right.
I remember I was like, Jake would come in, and I was like talking to him about this. He's like, oh, so you actually like care.
Yeah.
And that's when he brought up the USBG, and I was like, oh, yeah, I was in that in Reno. You know, I was kind of nervous to like join it down here.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's this place called the Brewery, which former, you know, Oaxaca, and it's a whiskey bar. I know this dude like Chris Gutierrez. He can, you know, I think they're looking for someone. I was like, yeah, sure, like set it up, and well.
Wow. Yeah, it's so funny when you look back at different paths you take, just little encounters
like that,
or just huge.
Yeah.
Just huge stuff. So now you're at Oak and Ivy. Can you explain, like we've mentioned it on the show before, because I'll recommend, you know, places, you know, how would you describe it?
So it's tiny. It's like
in a shipping container.
It's shipping container in Container Park, downtown Las Vegas.
Yep.
But honestly, like it was such a just amazing like learning experience working there. Chris Gutierrez just like
Tater
tot. He like just
getting him on the
killed
show
it.
soon for sure. He was one of the first people I thought.
6-hour freaking.
Yeah, yeah, and that voice.
Oh God.
I want him and Jake on in the same episode because he'd be like, rah, rah, rah. Chris, I like your voice. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so but that was a big step for Las Vegas in a bar. I mean, we had bars on the Strip that specialized in whiskey and had great selections, but in kind of off Strip downtown, specializing in. I mean, back then, I think it was described as an American whiskey den, right? I think they're trying to like broaden it a little bit now.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it's known for. But I mean, in terms of like your profession and like your knowledge of whiskey, it was
just like
leaps and bounds.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, a matter of like months. Like I thought I knew about whiskey, and I quickly found out that I had no idea. Like they kind of hired me on, and like I thought like I knew. I was like, at the time I was actually going for brand ambassador for Angel's Envy.
Okay.
I was in like the interview process for that.
Yeah.
I had like no idea how I got that interview.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I learned a lot, but I mean, when I was working at Jalisco, was reading like the craft of the cocktail during my shift and stuff, but I didn't really dive into too much other than tequila, you know. So I remember somebody had like came up to me and like, so like, you know, like the whiskey rules, right? And I was like, drink like responsibly.
Yeah.
No idea. Googled that and just really got into the whiskey rules and just how everything worked, and started reading all the books, and man, I just like lived and breathed whiskey.
Yeah.
And then we all were just so passionate about, you know, learning more. So we would take turns like blinding each other, and like we'd get off work and go down to a good old Atomic.
Yeah.
And we'd pick out whiskey for each other and like blind each other. Like, okay, so this is like, you know, the same way that you would with I don't know. We'd narrow it down by like proof, by mash bill.
Sure.
You know, figuring out the category.
And really dissect it.
Yeah. And it was fun.
That's awesome.
It's kind of crazy. Like I used to be, I feel like, pretty decent at it, and I just haven't had the time to really do it anymore.
It's something you got to like definitely keep up on.
Keep up with, and so I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get back into that routine of like maybe, you know, order something random. Maybe you don't get that same like shot of gin that you always get.
It's so hard not to go back to what you're familiar with, and to really, because like we're creatures of habit. I mean,
and you're tired after you get off work, you know. You just, I'm like, I just
your mind
want
doesn't.
a shot, and like I don't want to think.
Yep. Yeah. The good thing about whiskey, though, like all spirits, I mean, really depending on the category, you can pick and choose like your occasion. If you just want something like that coat that fits just right, that like you got that. But if you want to, you know,
kind
you
of
can go out of the
expand
box.
and do something different. Yeah.
So, So that's kind of you're a product of the environment type of thing.
Yeah.
Like iron sharpens iron. Like someone reads a book, comes in and you talk about it, or, you know, you get a new product in,
Yeah,
new whiskey in, and then you
exactly.
all kind of absorb it and bounce off each
And
other.
thankfully, like, you know, Tater was just, he always wanted the newest thing,
Yeah.
the cool new thing. So we were so fortunate too. And then he would have us taste it and we'd talk about it. And that guy, man, how he has that memory, I have no idea. He can tell
Yeah.
you anything about any bottle anywhere. It's insane.
Yeah.
But it's great because the way he teaches about it too is just so, he's just so passionate. It's not pretentious. It's just so
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, this is so rad. And this is where this stuff comes from. This is how they get it. This is how they're doing it. This is why they're doing it. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And so, yeah, it was just between that and just trying the new products, and it was awesome. And also that was a place where we really worked to do a lot of competitions and stuff. So that really helped me out, is like going to other people's competitions and me trying to get my feet wet in that and being
Yeah.
really nervous. And
Gotta go through it.
Yeah.
Do you think for you, education, what was the drive for education? Did it make you more confident behind the bar? Was that part of the
Definitely.
element, or did it just make the job more fulfilling? Because those are kind of my reasons. It was always not in an arrogant way, but I didn't want someone to come into the bar and know
Yeah.
something about a bottle that I had on the back bar that I didn't know.
definitely.
It was definitely a confidence equals hospitality for me.
For sure. I mean, that's how I was even with like when I was a barista and stuff too. I just, I always want to do my job well. I want to do the best that I can. And the way for me to do that is to know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And exactly, like it's a hospitality industry. I'm here to, serve somebody the best way I can and help them have like a really great experience. And I know I've gone to a bar and I've like requested, I don't know, just some normal, but maybe like more classic drink, and the bartender not knowing how to make it or giving attitude or just
Yeah.
some kind of, imperfect experience. I'm like, bummer. Kind of like, even if it's a martini, sometimes I just really wanted like a 50-50 like martini. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sounded so good, and now I have to, it's like a thing,
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone else to ever feel in that way. I want them to come in, get exactly what they want. And then if they're cool and like they want to, learn more, I'm there for that.
Yeah, I think that was the good thing about Oak too, is it was kind of known as an educational bar in our circle, at least. The bartenders priding themselves on being able to educate the customer,
Yeah.
where I don't think a lot of bars really, that was kind of first and foremost. But it was also a bar where you could pick and choose. You wouldn't judge someone for ordering a Jack and Coke because it's
Absolutely.
downtown.
Right.
But if someone came in and started talking mash bills and stuff, you could go there. You were this
Yeah.
chameleon of whiskey, which I think was rare because it's usually kind of one or the other, like
Yeah.
kind of uptight. Like there's a lot of great bars with huge whiskey programs that wouldn't treat you like that either.
Right.
I'm not saying all of them, but it's kind of cool to have that duality
Right.
where you're
That
like,
option
it
where
is
you
still
kind of-
downtown,
yeah.
so it's cheap, affordable. I mean, the drinks were great, bartenders were great, but you could go there. You could go to the extreme if you wanted to.
Definitely.
So you're at Oak, you do that, you get your whiskey knowledge, you're wearing the suspenders.
Wearing the suspenders.
Yeah. And then,
And then, let's see, then I think I went straight to tacos and beer.
yeah.
And I mean, I was also really curious about beer. I wanted to
about to
get
say
my Cicerone.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen this year, I swear to God.
You have a good mentor,
yeah.
a good study partner.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So he knows a few things.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
so not to talk over you, but now you've gotten whiskey, you've gotten tequila, you're working up the chops, and now you're into beer
Yes.
and tacos.
And tacos.
God damn, I love that
Oh
place.
my
I'm so
God.
glad.
I still go there all the time.
I
It's
told
so
in the last
good.
episode with Jake that there's certain places, and now Herbs and Rye is far from me too.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be literally like 9 minutes away, and I wouldn't go there all that much because it's busy as fuck. So
Yeah.
it's hard to go there anyway. But now, luckily, you drove here today.
Oh yeah, you're not close to anything.
No, I'm like in California, which is awesome. I like being out on my own. But
Alright.
so now you're at Tacos and Beer. Amazing
Tacos and
place.
Beer.
Yeah.
And I was working with Felicia, and she's this total badass. And she honestly could have gotten her Cicerone last year. I know she wants to get it this year. Like
Yeah.
her knowledge is just stupid too. So it was really cool working with her. So I kind of handled more of like the cocktails and the spirits, and she did the beer. And
Yeah.
honestly, that worked out so well because we are like such good friends, and so we'd hang out all the time anyway. And it's a lot if you want to do a really cool beer program and a really cool cocktail program.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take on, and you really need to kind of separate it. And it was so easy for us to do that. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's challenging. I mean, because there are, for a long time, it was like people went to Atomic too, because it was like the beer, you know, but their bar program is off the charts. It's just insane.
Yeah.
But it was known as the beer place. So to kind of, and now there's this gray area, but at first there was the beer geeks, and now they're into whiskeys and spirits too, because it's just this back and forth that's kind of happening. But pleasing two audiences in a bar program is
challenging.
Fucking tough.
Yeah.
But how did you combat that with, what made that easier, do you think?
Honestly, it was our communication between the two of us.
Yeah.
Like, it would have not worked out with anybody else.
So you were the kind of the cocktail side and she was the beer side.
And we both just kind of like just trusted each other to do our own thing. And then we just collaborate and be like, okay, like I'm doing this event. And I was really involved in the USBG then too. Yeah. So I wanted to do all of these events here, and she wanted to do beer events. And we just kind of tackled them like, you know, separately, but we were there for backup.
Sure.
Remember, I did the Castagnole competition.
Yep.
God, that was a headache. Who decided like having 4 competitions like wrapped in one? It's like, yeah, you know, I haven't done this before, guys. Let's just go ahead and make it like 4 times.
Let's make it the biggest competition.
Jeez Louise. Oh God, that was. I can't believe I'm not like have tons of gray hair from that. It was so stressful. It was fun and great. You know, I'm so grateful that everyone wanted to compete and all my friends came out, and it was a blast.
It's amazing what you learn from things that you shouldn't do, rather than like, or like, it was a success. I remember like there was a lot of like good bartenders in that competition, like amazing, but at the same time, like you're gonna learn from that for your next one to be like, ooh, okay.
Definitely, and I did, because I did another competition after that. I did with Mestizo Mezcal. Yeah. We did the My Mestizo cocktail competition.
Should have had a chime sound.
I know.
Mestizo Mezcal. Ding. So you did that one. So you definitely learned from the previous.
So I was like, you know what, guys? Why don't we just go ahead and have one? Let's just go do one competition on one day. Maybe just like 8 people total, 2 going at the same time. Yeah, maybe those 3 rounds are really cool and all. But let's just do 2 this time. Yep. And oh boy, like it was so much easier to put on. Like it was just crazy. But yeah, I had to learn from it and figure out what not to do. Yep. And maybe just not tackle everything at once. Yeah. It's probably a good idea.
Sometimes less is more, for sure. Yeah. I mean, cocktails to everything translates to life. Really, you have to hone in on what's most important, where you can get the most bang for your buck. But it's hard not to try to overachieve sometimes. But
story of my life. But but yeah, I mean, I also did like the Absolute Elixir Water for People event.
Oh yeah.
That one was really cool. Super easy. I came up with like 3 cocktails, and we did like the little copper bumps as well. And that was great. I mean, so much industry showed up. I remember, so we closed at 2 every night. And it's now 3:30 a.m. and I can't keep my eyes open. I'm behind the bar, and it's like we've all been kind of like drinking, like, and you know, just like having fun and stuff, because I was just there to really help out, not to really work. And I ended up having, you know, to help out and do more work. But I remember just everyone is just trash, but they're still, it's all my friends. You know, there's a group of like 30 some odd bartenders. I'm like, guys, we gotta call it.
It's hard to. That's the problem with like industry bars, is like you feel bad, but they should get it too. But it's like
we closed like an hour and a half, you know, ago, but like we're still going. But too, like there's no good can come from this at this point. Like everyone is so trash. Yeah. I remember like trying to like take everybody's keys away.
It's like at Run Amok. Like I've talked about Camp Run Amok. There's a time where it's just late enough to where you're like, nothing else is there's no good outcome after this besides bed.
Exactly.
So you have to, but that's cool. So you're at Tacos and Beer. You stayed there for a while. That was huge for you to learn like the beer side.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
you and Felicia both like learned from each other on that aspect.
For sure.
And then you went to Atomic?
Yeah, I went to Atomic.
Yeah. And so how's that?
It's going pretty well.
Is it weird though, kind of, I want to relate it to kind of like meeting your hero type of thing?
It's so funny because like I thought it would be, and apparently Rose says that she has been trying to like get me there for a while
without like stealing you,
right? And she's like she said she's been like wording it really funny, and I'm like, dude, I don't remember any of this.
Should just ask me.
You should just ask me.
Yeah.
But and I was like nervous because Atomic's like, you know, it's my bar. It's like my home bar. It's the bar that I go to, you know, when I'm like happy or sad, or I've spent every birthday there, I've spent every holiday there.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, Rose actually threw me a birthday party and got me like a piñata and did like all
awesome.
this like elaborate stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's my place. So I was a little nervous, but
So you're nervous kind of about ruining that relationship that you had with the bar.
I was like, what am I going to do if things, I mean, not like anything could go south anyway. What do you,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything. But,
Right.
I was just like, I just don't want to ruin that experience. Like, I don't want to be tired of going there.
Right.
But you know what? Still go there.
It's awesome.
Like almost every day.
Yeah, right.
I'm there every day. I haven't gone there yet today, but I'll
That's
probably
awesome.
go later.
So we've definitely mentioned Atomic on the podcast before too, but for those listening, Atomic Liquors, can you give like a rundown, a little bit of the history and like just what it encompasses, and also with the new addition, the kitchen?
Sure.
So
So oldest freestanding bar in Las Vegas.
awesome.
Yeah, it is. We have the #1 tavern license. And then I think we have like the 6th or 7th liquor license. The other license before that are like El Cortez and like all the other casinos. And
Yeah.
so we're just like the first freestanding bar. And man, I mean, I swear, like if those walls could talk, like you could just walk in there, and you just feel
the
that
history.
that history.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And it's so just surreal. Killer beer program. Rose does all of that, and
Yeah.
she started there as like bartending and helping like work her way up, and now she runs the whole thing. And
So awesome.
I don't know how she freaking sleeps, because all I do is see her there.
Yeah.
Her car. I'm like, Rose, just go home. But she does a killer job. Gets amazing beers. Loves doing beer events. And then on top of that, like we have a killer like cocktail program. Right now, Andrew Smith is taking over that.
Never heard of him.
Right. And it's so fun. I love that dude so much. And so it's so great to work with him.
Yeah, it was fun.
He's
I
such
worked
a-
with them, just for people listening that are like the fly on the wall in our inner conversation. I worked with Andrew too, so he's not going to listen to this.
No, he
There's
won't.
no
There's
fucking
no
way. But
I couldn't pay him to.
so I'm going to stop talking about him. But he's awesome. Go ahead.
But yeah, so he's doing a killer job. I was always really impressed with the whole. I mean, it kind of has like a divey feel when you go in there, but fresh juices, homemade syrups. There's like foams and stuff. Things are being set on fire. Like it's a killer program, and you wouldn't really think of that like walking in there. So I was always really, really impressed with that. And then, so Rose kind of took me on because she wanted me to help out with the kitchen. So the restaurant that we opened up, honestly, we opened it in April. Yeah, April or May. And so this was going to be our restaurant part. We're going to be like half the beer selection, cocktails. Kind of wanted to be, I wouldn't say like classier, but just a little bit less divey, and just kind of just a different vibe in there. No smoking in there. Kind of a place where you can get some good food and enjoy like a nice cocktail or beer.
Yeah.
And then you can still always like pop back over next door if you want. So that was really neat. So right now we have Chef Justin Kingsley Hall from Sparrow and Wolf.
Yeah. Very cool.
And he's doing a
An
killer
awesome dude.
job.
Man.
He's so much fun to work with.
That's an understatement.
Like there's so many different like games and stuff that we just play throughout.
Man.
It's just so funny. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
And so that it really makes the whole experience just so much fun. And honestly, he's just doing a killer job with the food. And the way we always have like fresh daily specials. And so going through all of that, honestly, it was fun for me because it's something that I haven't really had to do before, is really go through a place that's so, food driven, and just all the daily specials and the insane menu. Like I was like, oh crap, I actually have to do some work here.
There's a lot to take in. Yeah.
It's like on top of the, the bar stuff. And so that was a little overwhelming at first, but he makes it so much easier and just so much more fun. So yeah, he's doing a killer job. We have some events coming up. We're doing Valentine's Day dinner, of course, with Mestizo.
Nice.
So we're going to be doing I have like a singles menu and a couple menu.
Oh, that's awesome.
Planned out. So we kind of collaborated, and it's cool. It's
Cool.
really fun.
Is it just make a reservation and come in, or is it just come in and get a menu? Or
It's a bit of both. Like
Okay.
you can make a reservation, and then if you're nervous about whatever. But also like welcome to come in, and we have the menus out, and it's gonna be a good time.
yeah, that place. That's a good team to have. Like you down there, all the other bartenders, like Andrew, Justin. Like that's That's a pretty all-star lineup.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, working with Justin too, he's one of those rare guys. You're seeing it a bit more, outside of the strip too, is he has so much experience, but he's genuinely passionate about hospitality and food, but that food's his mechanism for serving.
Absolutely.
It's like everyone says, well, yeah, he loves food, or you love spirits, or what,
right.
But he's one of those guys where you can tell if it wasn't food, his personality, he would put that into something else to serve people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. He's the guy that's like going to stop and help you change a tire that's flat on the side of the road, because that's in his personality. Yeah. So it just comes through.
That just comes through the food.
In the food. So yeah, definitely check out Atomic Kitchen. So that's kind of your journey. You're there now. You have all this. You're on the USBG Education Council. So how's that been? And what's your experience been so far with that? And do you have any like plans for some upcoming things?
Yeah, it's been great so far. I really Doyle really just knocked out of the park with this last tasting seminar. Yeah, that was unreal. I mean, I always really appreciate those too. I mean, speaking on blind tasting and stuff, it's you really do have to practice that and get it back into your system. Especially remember we were tasting the vodkas and stuff early on.
Yeah.
Man, I forgot how hard that is. It's just
vodka's tough. Unless the only ones that I've seen do it really well are ambassadors, where they're constantly tasting their own product and the competitors. But
it's difficult.
Yeah.
And who really does it very often? I mean, who's what I think I'm going to do today? I think I'm going to blind taste some vodka.
Besides Tony.
Right. Tony does it 4 times a day.
Because that's when he's writing a book.
Right.
But, yeah, that was an awesome seminar. It was, I told him, it was a lot of spirits. What did we do? 24? Or, I don't know.
God,
that was the only thing. It was just dun-dun-dun-dun.
And it was fast.
Yeah, but
you have to.
I was about to say, not only to get it all in the time frame, but it's good to be able to trick your mind into figuring things out quickly, because you're not always going to have 45 minutes to dissect a spirit, So sometimes, depending on competitions like UBBCs and all those, it's you may get a spirit, immediately have to break it down by what flavor notes and then go. So, but yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, USBG is doing a freaking awesome job.
Honestly, I don't know how Doyle does it either. He's really just spearheaded everything. I'm how do you freaking when do you sleep, dude?
He doesn't.
And then he goes out with us afterwards. I'm dude.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. He just does a really, really amazing job. And so we're lucky to have him doing that. But yeah, it's been really fun kind of seeing that side of things. I've done presentations with my Mezcal Mestizo before.
Yeah.
And so I have that kind of experience, but it's just a whole different thing. But
it's awesome. I can't stress it enough. Even if you're not a bartender, you just like cocktails, or you just want spirits education, look up the USBG in your city. Chances are, if you're near a major city or in one, there's going to be a chapter there that's pretty active. So
I mean, even if you just like booze, you don't even have to care about learning it. Just show up. The party's
I was about to say, as far for even Vegas, there's people that just pay their dues to come to the Christmas party because it's so crazy. But I remember I was trying to not when I was on council, someone was asking me about it, and they were like, I don't know I'm not really into spirits education. I'm well, I just went to a Saint Germain seminar where at the end they gave us,
that knife is amazing.
Yeah, they gave us $100 knife at least.
I still use that every day.
That's when dues were $100. Right. So I'm if you pick and choose just a few events, and if you're trying to learn or just figure out cocktails you like or spirits you like, come to a few tastings where you're not going to have to go to the bar and try these new products. And so, I mean, I can't stress it enough. You're trying to expand your knowledge, even if you're not behind the bar, you have no plans to do so. It's worth it. So, and I didn't get paid for that. Yeah. That's just how I feel. So on that, you want to get into the first whiskey?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I chose 2 different ones that are pretty different. I wanted to do an Irish on the podcast because I haven't yet. So we're going to be drinking the Jameson Caskmates KelSo Pale Ale Edition. So, it's pretty standard. Cork Island, Middleton Distillery, mash bill. Who knows? I don't know. pot distilled, malted and unmalted barley, grain whiskey. 40%. This one's like $37 to $40 if you can find it. I know this was a smaller release. Fun fact, Jameson accounts for 70% of the Irish whiskey sales in the U.S. Not surprising,
Right.
but when you put that into like,
It's bananas.
yeah, people know this. You know, it's a little brand that people know.
Yeah.
Mixed with pickle juice. So, but this one is from a collaboration with KelSo Brewing Company from Brooklyn. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, Shane Merriam got me this bottle. He's super like he's a Jameson head. So,
He loves
oh my
Jameson.
God, he has so many. But the name comes from the two owners, Kelly and Sonia. So KelSo. Let's see what else about this that's fun. I have some the barrel finish. This is what's interesting about this is that so Caskmates came out where they're finishing in different beer barrels. So the first one I think was their stout, and then so this one came out, and the journey for this one is I think it's kind of funny because at this point it's like barrelception. So this was this was a wild turkey barrel, rumored.
Okay.
So that is supposedly a wild turkey barrel. Sent to Ireland to age Jameson. Then Jameson sends it to KelSo Brewery in Brooklyn, where they age the beer, where they serve that, I think, in like real locally,
I'd love to try that beer.
Oh, yeah. I watched a video on it on YouTube, and it looked absolutely delicious. So they aged their pale ale in it, and then they sent those barrels back to Jameson to age this. So it's like this full circle, like quite the trip for these barrels. So, but get into it a little bit. So I chose this one before our next one just because the next one's no joke.
Yeah. So I don't think I tried the IP one. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think someone might have had it at some event, and I was like, oh, I'll try a little bit of that. So I, of course, have no like real. I can't remember, but I really enjoy the first Caskmates. We actually use it. We've had it on our cocktail menu for a
I was
while.
about to say it's pretty awesome in cocktails.
Yeah, we do this one. It's called Not Your Average Joe.
Okay.
So it's an ounce and a half of this, and then we do like a condensed milk anise syrup type deal.
Wow, nice.
And an ounce of that. We do some Three Brothers Aztec bitters, and then 3 ounces of Modern Times cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
Shake it up, and then we have a rim of it's like a coconut, like vanilla, kind of like salty rim on. Stupid.
God, that
Stupid
sounds
good.
delicious. Sounds delicious. Kind of what because I just did the tasting episode. What's kind of your process for spirits? I mean, are you the start real low with the spirit and bring it up, mouth open? Like
I do.
Do you have certain tricks?
I do like all of that. It's something I think I was with the first time I heard about that was through like a Castanova seminar.
Yeah.
Where he was really talking about like bringing it, to like your chest and smelling there, bringing it like right below your chin, and then bringing it like to your nose, and how each scent is different and the process is different. And then I'm a big fan of like the 2 tastes. And also just like having it like just kind of coat different parts of your mouth, and then like the breathing in while having it still in your mouth.
Yeah.
So those are some of my things
Standard
that I do.
go-tos.
Yeah.
So.
And then trying that each nostril, obviously.
Yeah. So kind of, what are you getting on the nose? Obviously, like for me, I mean there's a lot of honey.
Yeah.
Just because.
Honestly, it smells very
Citrusy or
citrusy, and it's just I had to like double check that it was like the Jameson. Like honestly, like I was like this. It just does not.
So you think possibly even before we get into the palate, you think maybe the cask overpowered the expression of Jameson a little bit?
I think it did.
So first impression
I'm not like against that. I think
no,
yeah.
but it's
first impression is like obviously I'm getting that cask like way more than I am like the mash in there, whereas Jameson is typically such a super light, just like
so delicate.
It comes through so easily, but also it can be very hidden.
Sure,
with the right barrel on there.
For me, there's a lot of obviously going back to the beer, but there's this piney. It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know, just like I always relate things back to Oregon, but it's just very like not earthy, but just fresh, kind of bright. What else are you getting on the nose?
Let's see. Definitely getting a lot of just like, the traditional like vanilla.
Yeah. Yep.
Vanilla kind of like, even like a little bit like amber-esque in there.
Mm-hmm. You know what almost reminds me a little bit of is an aged gin.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever
with that pine kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like it has this herbally.
I love gin. I have yet to really find one that I truly like
aged?
can just drink. Yeah.
Me too.
I feel like I've tried them all, and it's just, I appreciate it.
So Whistling Andy, they have one that they brought up that I forget how old it is, 2 years, 3 years, but they did it early.
Okay.
So it wasn't like this rushed age project. Like it was like 4 or 5 years ago where, everyone was like, the next big thing is aged gins. There was this time when it was just like, what's that? I don't know. I don't know the reference. Well, I know the reference, but I don't know the movie where it's like, stop trying to make fetch happen.
Oh, you know the movie.
Is it Mean Girls?
It's so Mean Girls.
Okay. Maybe I know it.
Okay. Whatever.
Maybe I know
it's
it.
on right now.
I'm just saying.
Let's go, girls.
All right.
I already know you had that song like ready
Oh,
for
no,
me
it was-
too. You didn't have to download it or
Nope.
anything.
I already had it on my iTunes library.
Right.
But
was
no,
funny.
but it was like aged gin was like supposed to take off, and it just, and I had so many bad ones. It's for me, it either came across separate or it would just destroy the delicate nature of like gins.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of American, like Western style gins.
I can't even think of. Well, I mean, you have like Genever, obviously, like
Sure.
barrel aged, but
Yeah, but I think that sweet maltiness holds
Right.
up better than like delicate.
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's never really worked for me, but the Whistling Andy one, I was very surprised. So it might be interesting when it comes out
Yeah.
for you to try it. But yeah, it's a tough sell to me. But that's kind of what I would get is this like piney, like sap with these aged gins, and that's kind of what I'm getting here is like sappiness.
It's kind of just like I feel like my nose doesn't know what to do with it. It's like, are you
Confused?
Shit? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
confused. It's kind of like they're kind of so contrasting.
Yeah.
But I feel like with the sweetness though, with that honey, I think it's different from that. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get that barrel aged kind of pininess, but it seems to really kind of melt together a little bit better.
Yeah. So let's take some taste here.
Yeah, so it's definitely the first taste that I've had with this. So
So it's definitely
just so odd.
yeah.
Does not. I honestly wouldn't even think Jameson trying this.
Because it has this more tannic.
There's just so much more character.
Yeah. Yeah, not in a bad way. Jameson
No.
is just such it's almost like you can drink it all night.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
I wonder what that's like.
But this has this on the tongue, this dryness, this almost like astringency.
Yeah.
That's you can definitely tell has that hoppiness.
I was just gonna say that hop. Yeah, definitely kind of it's so crazy.
But it definitely has a lot of citrus. I mean, there's some classic Jameson notes for sure in there. It's just not characteristic of the style.
Yeah.
So pretty good finish too. I mean,
Yeah.
for
it's longer than Jameson normally is.
for sure. Yeah. So it
stays
adds
with you a bit more.
so like it should. I think it
Yeah.
adds complexity.
Absolutely.
But it's not totally. It's funny because with finishes and different things, a lot of times I've talked about this, is the integration is sometimes really far apart, and it's just it's very separate, and I hate that. Nothing more than oh, that's Jameson, and then that's
Right.
an IPA or a beer cask. I
Right.
don't want that. I want that's
To be a little more
Jameson with.
continu- Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna give it another taste, but what else did I come up with on this one? Yeah, it's easy. I mean, but I think on the palate, those a little bit more vanilla comes across, just because I think the aroma was a little bit more
Kind of woodsy-ish and
yeah. Not bad. Not bad. So yeah, this is my first time trying it too. I've had the bottle for a while, but so getting back to some whiskey questions. What's your favorite cocktail modifier for whiskey?
Yeesh. So depends.
Yeah, I know that's such a broad, but what's one that you like?
Okay, so like right now anyway,
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of either I've been going like the sherry route or I've been going more Amaro.
Yeah.
So like right now it's kind of just, I mean, maybe it's just like I was doing like a lot of like winter kind of creations.
Yeah. Why do you like sherry in cocktails? Particularly,
it depends.
It's just like the nuttiness, the oxidized, like
Yeah,
goes with the
and I like
whiskey?
to go different, different realms of that. So like I just did one the other day with Fino, and to kind of give it a little bit more of that like acidity and without a lot of that sweetness, because I wanted more of that drying character because I was doing it with like a kind of a more sweeter like whiskey.
Yeah, I mean to say sherry in cocktails, but what does that mean? There's
Right. I mean, there's that's just so broad. So,
Yep.
But then I also was doing one. Actually, I was doing my world-class cocktail last night.
Okay.
Last minute, of course.
That's right.
But I really wanted to work with Lagavulin because it's one of my favorites, and I like the challenge. I feel like people kind of like, oh,
I'm not going to go there.
right? And
It's definitely the road less traveled, especially for world class.
Right.
So that's cool.
So I wanted to do that. I'm trying to remember what I did exactly. I definitely did some sherry. I want to say, I did PX.
Yep.
Because I really wanted, I wanted like those nutty, like fruity notes.
So that was your sweetener.
Yeah, so that was my sweetener. Crap, what else did I do?
That's right. This isn't being graded.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember. This is like last night. It was just how great my memory is. But I want to say I did that, and then I did an Amaro of some sort. So I did both.
Cool.
And then I did like a smidgen of just like some citrus bitters.
Oh, cool. So you have like some bitterness, some like raisiny.
Yeah.
Cool.
And man, like I was like pleasantly surprised with that.
Cool.
So that worked out really well. But yeah, I think PX sherry can also, using that as the sweetener, a little bit goes a long way, and it
For
just
sure.
adds so much complexity to it. It's
the
just,
character, mouthfeel, body. I love
Absolutely.
PX as a modifier.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I try to use it as like many different like kind of versatile cocktails as I can, because you can like the small, even just like a bar spoon can really just create something truly like insane in a cocktail.
For those listening, like it's one of my new things that I notice I do is gloss over things that we know, like we're like PX sherry and this and
the PX stuff.
Yeah, so it's Pedro Jimenez sherry, so it's going to be their sweeter style. A good thing to try out if you're just getting into like cocktails is try to make like I think an easiest thing would be to make an old fashioned with it. So instead of a simple syrup, maybe just use a bar spoon, quarter ounce up.
That's how I started using it.
Yeah, if you like it sweeter, maybe a half ounce, depending on the PX too, of course, but it's it's a sweet style. And then a choice of bitters. You can do Angostura bitters, and then you don't need much more. A little bit of, I would suggest with PX, you can do orange or lemon, essence, some oils. If you're into the whole muddling thing, that's cool. But I'm not gonna judge you. But yeah, try it in a whiskey old fashioned with Pedro Jimenez sherry. So that's cool. Let's see what other fun.
What? It was Fernet Branca. That's what I used in there too.
Also, even more bitterness.
It was dope.
So you have
I
some
did.
like
I think I did half
licoricey-
ounce PX. And I think I did a quarter ounce of Fernet,
Okay.
and I think that really kind of gave it the right balance.
So it's a stirred cocktail.
Yeah.
Awesome, with some citrus bitters.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ready for world class?
Hope so.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Let's get into situational whiskey. So this is like some fun stuff. So you're waking up hungover. What whiskey?
Old Overhold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what put you there.
Yeah, exactly, though. That's what I need. It can't
Just
be
start-
anything that I were like, I want something a little bit more rye forward, something just like kind of, it's going to just wake you up. And
It's so funny. I was working at a bar with some like really high-end spirits that we are known for. And sometimes people will come in and it's always a question like, what's your favorite? What's the best? And they're like asking me, they see this wall of whatever.
really,
And they're like, what's your favorite rye that you have? And we had some expensive stuff. And I'm like, Rittenhouse.
yeah, absolutely. All
Overhold.
day.
And they're like, really? I can get that? My grandpa drank that. I'm like,
Made
yeah.
well. It's
There's
a
a
great
reason.
product. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's especially in like what's going on with whiskey now is beer too, to a certain extent. It's just people are just taking it past enjoyment into like obsession. It's like it was
trying to dissect every little thing.
Yeah, hence like making podcasts about it. It's
right.
Like, it's fucking stupid. No, but at the like that was one of my like fears with the show is that I would make whiskey like too stuffy. It's not. And it was kind of like different elements of whiskey that people don't really know about. That's why I'm trying to make it pretty diverse rather than just sitting down and being like,
oh, this whiskey is good. And
or I try to incorporate certain things, but I didn't want it just to be a review show or this is the new release coming out and this is why you should get it. It's like, let's talk about cocktails. Let's talk about so overall, that's good. What about 116 degree August day in Vegas?
Okay.
And this could be cocktail too. Whiskey cocktail.
Okay, if it's going to be, I'd probably go more cocktail or I would do...
Because I know it'd probably be gin or something like...
Wait, we're still
tequila.
talking whiskey, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying normally you probably wouldn't say 116, let's go whiskey.
It's just so funny. It's like when I worked at, obviously, Oak and Ivy, I just like lived like whiskey. Just every EQ was just insane. And then when I was at Tacos and Beer... And even like, nowish, it's a lot of gin. Like I've never worked like Atomic. I've never seen so many employees all have like the same like shifty, and it's all shots of gin. Like
really?
Not just, like
warm
Navy strength.
Oh shit.
Warm gin.
Yeah.
Bussers, like barbacks and cocktail waitress, bartenders. Everybody is just on that, and it just like blows my mind and it makes me so happy. I'm just like, yes, you guys are such badasses.
I blame Travis Tober for my with aviation. His fucking warm gin shots.
So jealous. I would do that all day.
Yeah.
Dude,
At first though, it was not my thing.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, listen, I like gin for sure. There's a lot of styles that I like, a lot of styles I don't. Mm-hmm. But like, it's a little bit of rude awakening when doing the first warm one. Yeah.
I remember I took my little sister out when she turned 21. I was like, okay, let's go hit downtown. We went to, so first of all, that girl, I was very impressed. We started at Atomic, of course. From there, we went to Oak and Ivy. We went to Griffin. We went to Downtown Cocktail Room. We went to Vanguard. We went to Laundry Room.
She was able to hang through all that?
Went back to Atomic. And you know where we went after Atomic? To Herbs and Rye.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
Little
that's the anchor.
Hang.
That's crazy.
But I remember I was going to, obviously... gonna buy her a shot, and I'm like, okay, like what do you drink? Thinking like Fireball. She's like, I usually just do like gin, by itself. She didn't say neat, she didn't know what that means. She just said just gin by itself. And I'm like, you don't want it chilled? She's like, no, it's whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, you're my sister.
Yeah, it's like,
who says that?
No, it's crazy, like being behind the bar too, and like being older. I'm like this grumpy old guy, but it's like that started to happen like 5-6 years ago. I mean, where I really noticed it was like 21-year-olds coming up for like their birthday shot, and they're like, Stu Lafroig, and I'm like, oh shit, like where do you go? Yeah, like I love it.
Where do you go?
Where do you go from there? It's like usually it takes years to be like, all right, you work up there like Lafroig and a cigar and like an ancient, like a antique typewriter. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. It's just that's crazy, but it's definitely a different generation to where it's like their palate is elevated right off the bat with food. They there's way more foodies, and I mean, I'll go back home to Portland, and it's crazy. Like you'll walk everywhere's gourmet this, gourmet, like everywhere. So it's just like it's a different time. But
it is, but
so your really hot weather cocktail,
okay, hot weather cocktail,
whiskey cocktail.
Probably just like either like just a nice old fashioned, or maybe like a whiskey smash. Yeah. And I used to drink those a lot when it was like really hot at like Oak and Ivy, and I'd come in and stop in and say hi to the guys, and I'd be like, you know what? Like I know I just made like 1,000 of these last night, but that sounds so good. Like the fresh fruit we would do and the mint, and we were just man, like on hot days, it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I like what do I do for hot? Like I love a properly made julep, like mint julep.
No, I changed my mind. Julep that's what I want.
It's just like it's a cocktail that was bred out of necessity for it just being hot as fuck out, and the dilution and how strong it is, but how sweet and refreshing it is. It's just underrated, I think. But then I might go like paper plane or something too.
Yeah.
To where it's like citrusy, refreshing, but like hot as like August in Vegas. Like I want something like
I kind of want something on the rocks, so some kind of ice.
Yeah, me too.
Because that that cocktail's just gonna get so warm. So
and a
fast.
julep is like pretty much an adult snow cone
Yeah.
at that point.
Exactly.
What about like a windy, rainy April day
Jesus.
whiskey?
Okay.
And it could go back to Overholt.
Yeah, right.
Every answer.
Again. Honestly, yeah, I'd probably just go with Lefroy. Like it's it was the first whiskey that I ever liked. I used to think that I used to think that I hated whiskey because I had only had Jack Daniels and I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, if all whiskey tastes like that, then I don't like whiskey, you know. And I remember I went to one of my first like seminars and stuff in the USBG and we did like Lefroy and I was like, oh, this I like. This I can get behind.
That's cool.
And so that was the only thing I drank. Still didn't touch Jack Daniels or anything else.
Yeah.
Eventually I was like, oh, actually I do like Jack
You
Daniels.
were one of those people that started. Yeah.
I was.
It's amazing to me. It's
But
cool,
I worked my way backwards. I was like, okay. And like now I do like Jack. It's a, very well made product and I enjoy it. But of course, like Lefroy always just has my heart.
Yeah.
I remember I had gotten off early at Oak and Ivy, and with one of the cocktail servers, she wanted to hang out with me. I was like, okay, sure, let's hang out. So it was a Friday night.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to Griffin. I was like, okay, cool. So I remember we're going up to the bar, and she's like, oh, we'll just wait for some guys to buy us drinks. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna buy my own whiskey. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got yours too. Like, what do you want? And she did a vodka soda with a splash of cranberry. And I got Lefroy on the rocks. And I remember she wanted to like go like dancing and stuff in the back room.
It
and
couldn't be more opposite ends of the spectrum of drinking liquid, by the way.
I'm like holding my cup because people are like moving around and dancing. It's a Friday night. And I'm like holding my $18 scotch in my hand. I'm like, nobody better move. This is $18. Don't touch me. But no, I love that stuff. So I think I would definitely... Yeah, I need kind of like rainy, windy, like.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's like a kind of tumultuous, but
either neat or on the
whiskey.
rocks, depending on like how I'm feeling. But yeah.
Very cool. Do you have advice for people ordering from a bar, and specifically where they want to try a new whiskey? Because we've heard everything, like people coming up. It just like let's say someone's listening and they're like, oh, I want to go to a bar and I want to maybe order. A whiskey cocktail or, what advice do you have for people like going up to a bartender, someone that they don't know?
Honestly, like, and it's the same kind of mentality I feel like was, any like restaurant or stuff too is like, your person who's taking care of you, your server or bartender, like it's their job. Like they really do. You have to be in the mindset they want to take care of you and they want to help you get to where you want to go.
If they're a good bartender.
Yeah, if they're a good bartender. Yeah. We're just going to like assume
that you're in a good bar.
Assume that you're in a good bar. Yeah. Let's say you come into Atomic and, this actually happened 2 days ago. This couple came in and they're like, yeah, they obviously aren't bartenders, but they like whiskey and they're really interested. And like we wanted to like try something new. I was like, dope. I love that. Let's talk about it. Like, and then I break it down to like, okay, well, what do you normally drink? And then we kind of go from there. So usually like...
Great place to start.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend doing is saying, okay, well, I usually drink this and this and I like this kind of cocktail. I like this about that. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying, well, I don't know, like saying like I like Jack because it's a little bit more on the sweeter side. I'm like, okay, cool. So maybe we're going to go bourbon. Maybe we're going to go like a bourbon-y route,
Sure.
Or I like this because it's spicy. I'm like, so...
Sure. So there's key indicators that we look for, like behind the bar, like. But the advice is be as descriptive. With what you like. Yeah. Because if you just go, surprise me.
Right. That doesn't my least favorite thing is like it's happened so often at like Oak and Ivy. Just dealt with so many interesting fellas.
Sure.
But a lot of it is like, like what, like I need a girl drink. Like what's something that you drink? And I'm like, do you want to know? I'll get you what I drink.
Yeah. Then out comes the Lefroy, and then they
like you want to.
They do the like drink, try to play it off like they're like very smooth. Whenever someone would do that at the bar, where they would order something for like bravado, and they would take the shot of it and try to play it off, I'd be like, it's real smooth, isn't it? Like in front of everyone, so that everyone would like look at them like
as they're like trying to
I'm
keep
like,
it together.
you do not want to drink that, do you?
Don't play this game with me, man.
So you had to, I'm sure, was Oak kind of to a little tangent, was oak the hardest to kind of get over that stigma of, you know, because you're a badass bartender, period, to me. But was that the toughest venue?
I don't even know if I'd say it was the toughest, because it was tough, but I mean, it's just, I feel like the nightclub place is probably tougher.
Sure.
I had like
but as far as like hey, can you get the bartender to make me a drink?
Right.
And that bullshit. Like,
yeah.
And my other question is, have you seen that stigma kind of start to fade away?
So I at the time I was like their only like girl bartender.
Yeah.
And so I was often called like the cocktail waitress. People would call over the bar back, who dressed in all black. I'm in khakis and a white shirt with a bow tie and suspenders. But yeah, go ahead and call over the bar back dressed in all black to ask him to make you a cocktail.
Right.
So it was really difficult, but thankfully I had such a great team there. So
they wouldn't let that bullshit go down.
So it was always just like, oh, can you grab your boss for me? You know, and things like that. And, oh, I want an old fashioned, but they wanted like Keith to make him a drink because he had the facial hair.
Right.
And thankfully everyone was so cool. So Keith would be like, actually, no, she's my boss. And so she's going to make you a way better one. And I was like, thanks, dude.
So part of it was like you kind of expecting it, not really giving a shit, but also the support you had from
the support made
that's
a huge
right?
difference. And you know, a lot of it's just like, can you make me like an old fashioned? And I was like,
or do you know how to make? Yeah.
So
I've seen it too with working with people. But I couldn't. I mean, obviously, very different situations. But have you seen it kind of start to?
You know, I was just talking about this with Jake. I think it's the same.
Shit.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's worse, but it's definitely not better. Like, it's just a different venue, but I still get people calling over to like the bar back.
Which is crazy because Rose has been like,
you
know what I mean? Like, she's such a badass in that
She
establishment. Is. Like, people that come in there, they should know, like,
and if
this isn't a guy's club.
Right. And it's just so funny. Sometimes like guys want to give themselves like a pat on the back for like noticing that she's there. And she's like, oh, they're like, oh, well, she's a badass because, you usually don't see women in this type of position.
Ugh.
And I'm like, that's not a thing to say. You're not.
Even almost
I'm
worse.
like, you're not helping your case here. You're just sounding like a dick.
Yeah.
And so, but she's, her and I talk about this all the time too. I mean, there are certain things that I let get to me more than others, but it's more just like annoying because I just want to do my job. And it's like, you're stopping me from doing, I could have made you this cocktail 5 minutes ago, but now we need to talk about how qualified I am.
Yeah.
And so that's really frustrating. Like I said, the couple that came in, the girl was super nice, really knowledgeable about whiskey, wanted to talk. The dude just for some reason like had to like keep proving himself to me and like putting me down. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to help you here, you know?
Yeah, that's the worst with, I mean, I've experienced that too with working at, like I said, a place with high-end spirits.
Yeah.
Like that comes along with, and it was on the Strip. Mm-hmm. So that comes along with its unique set of challenges in that people are going to come in either completely douchebag, like
it's the most expensive thing.
Yeah, it's like you can't see it, but it's the guys that like turn their back to the bar and then lean back to order.
Ugh,
like,
gross.
Yeah, so it's like,
so gross.
And then they're like, well, I usually get Louis Trey and blah. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing. But like, where was I going to go with that? Do you think, I mean, that's definitely, I hate when people say, and this isn't just female to male. Yeah. It's like they were she's a good bartender for a girl.
Right, exactly.
Like that's the most dumb shit because the job in itself is based on hospitality. Like if you're good at the job, you're good at the job.
Right.
It just drives me fucking nuts. But like, that's just like a little pet peeve of mine. And I hear it and I'm sure you hear it obviously all the time too. But do you think though, and I found this to be true, that it automatically puts this chip on your shoulder to where you are more driven by somebody or in the industry to not prove yourself, but does it kind of put that little chip? Because what I've seen is like women in the industry, they like hit it hard. And the ones that do it better than, I don't care, guys, girls, like the level of talent and dedication, like from some of the top females in the industry is way above, like, you know what I mean? I mean, do you think do you just do your job and you just go to work?
So I think I used to have like a mentality where it's like, I mean, it started when I was bar backing. I'm like, I really got to prove myself. I really got to do this. And then Oak and Ivy, I really got to prove myself. I really got to do this. And then all of this crap. And it's like, I feel like it made me really angry.
Sure.
And I think that anger it honestly, like, it wasn't a fun work environment for me. Like, I felt like it maybe
put you in the wrong mindset.
Yeah, it maybe pushed me to do some things differently and work a certain way. But I wasn't like, I didn't have that peace, you know?
Sure.
Like, I was just angry. And now I want to do a really good job. And that's honestly what it is. And so I don't let any of that get to me anymore. And I push myself because I push myself. Because I really want to be a kick-ass, you know? And
just as a person in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I understand, you know, really, you know, coming out of this differently. But it's just... it was hard to sleep at night. It was hard to really just be happy with what I was doing too, because I was like, oh, well, so-and-so's doing this and this dude over here, he's doing that. And I need to be doing that too. And it's like, you know what? I also was overworking myself a lot too.
Sure.
And so now it's like, I want to do maybe minimal jobs, but just do them really well.
Yeah. I think I went through something similar in the industry. I think when you first get into it, there's this like need to not prove yourself, but you see all these like star tenders and all this, and then eventually the bullshit gets stripped away, and then you're like, oh, this is what bartending's about. It's just about like serving people, and kind of like you have to walk this fine line of like entertainer but in the background.
Right.
It's not about you. And like
exactly,
and that's the toughest thing for a lot of bartenders, especially new ones, to realize. You know, you may get a newspaper article, but that's not what bartending's about.
Not.
So if you can't handle not being the star of the show, I recommend like bartending's not for you, because when you're plunging a toilet or you're cleaning up at the end of the night, cleaning bottles and breaking stuff and like cleaning floor mats and shit like that, that newspaper article isn't going to help you get through that shit.
Right. It's not.
So, I mean, it's just interesting to see people's progression in the industry too. And then eventually kind of settle on being comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
I think, you know, because a lot of times you'll get into bartending, especially with kind of the rise of the popularity of it, thinking that you have to be something that you're not to fit in. And then eventually you realize, oh, I'm a really good hospitality professional because I am who I am. And like, so... But I could see that to where early on you had this chip like, oh, this is my motivation. And then it switched to just doing your job well.
Honestly, I'm glad I did that, because through that, I mean, I have traveled so much, and I have, it's thinking about like Run Amok and Death Store, Juniper Harvest and Tales and all of those things that I've done. It's like I just keep pushing myself, and it's like there's no time for you to like pause and like, oh guys, I think like I've had too much fun for today. I need to like take a break. It's like, no, we got to get up in 4 hours to do this again.
Yeah.
And, you know, really pushing those limits. But I know I can push those limits. I've done that before.
Right.
So now it's kind of like choosing when and how. So it's like I don't have to go to every event. I don't have to be, you know, the highest attendance and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So speaking of traveling, what's your favorite like cocktail week that you've been to? And like maybe just like I know Run Amok and Juniper Harvest are definitely up in there, but what's your favorite like cocktail week that you've been to?
I really liked San Antonio Cocktail Conference.
The one, there's a few that I haven't done, and that and Bar Convent in Germany obviously is huge, but that one's coming to New York, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. But yeah, I heard San Antonio's amazing.
So much fun. I mean, those are all just like great people out there too. That city was amazing. Thankfully, like I went down with Matt Graham, and I stayed with his family in Austin for a week, and that was really cool. So I was really lucky to do that. And then we went to San Antonio, and man, that city, I just loved it there.
Yeah, I haven't been yet.
Fun.
I've been Houston, Dallas, Austin. So yeah, that's the one that's left where I'm like, I just can't wait to go. But so you enjoyed that. You went to Portland Cocktail Week.
That
You've
one
done
was
Tales.
rough. That was like, because we were, when I went, it was, you know, when they had like the, it was 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. schedule, and it was mandatory to go to every single thing.
Yeah, it was tough. There was a few events.
I was going to make it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there was some events where like you had to like check in with your badge, which is cool. It's like I get it. It's holding people accountable
for sure.
And then like if you're working, they had the degrees that you could work towards and stuff. But like there were some events where I'm just like, I checked in, like got a drink, like said hi, and then I'm like, I got to go back to the hotel.
Yeah,
it was a lot. But Lush Life, like shout out, like they do things really well, but they pack the schedule, which is great because once you decompress from it, like they're better now, I think, at particularly with Run Amok. There's an
Yeah.
extra day now to where they like. When I first went, it was 5 days. Now I think it's 6. But it was just like there was no time to
Yeah.
think. So yeah, it's about like balance. But yeah, as far as education goes, I think Portland Cocktail Week is still like.
Definitely. I mean, I was serious, really getting
Yeah.
down and just learning everything. And so that was really cool. It's funny. I came across like one of my notebooks recently and I was like, oh, cool. I forgot like I did this whole like business intro class and I thought that was so dope.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going through it all again. I'm like, yeah, I can. Yeah. I'm like retaking notes on my notes. And
Yeah.
it was really a truly like incredible experience. And as was Run Amok and Bar Institute, now that they were
Yep.
doing that. And
Yeah. Portland Cocktail Week's coming back now.
yeah.
So we'll see how they've changed things, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can go to it. But yeah, get the education, go to them.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough.
So much fun, so much great people out, and great people and great experiences.
It's funny how every event that you go to outside of your city, not only do like friend requests if you're into Facebook. I'm not too much on it anymore, but like all of a sudden you have 200 more friends,
Right.
and like
it is like 200 each time you
each
come
time
back.
you go,
And you're like,
and then this community, which was huge across the world, really,
Yeah.
is just keep shrinking. And then all of a sudden you'll meet someone at an event, and then you'll go to like, they'll be like, oh, if you're into social media, but it'll say like 150 mutual friends. I'm like, how do we both know 150 people
Right.
and don't know each other yet?
Isn't that
It's just,
crazy?
it's a very different but very cool
And
time.
I mean, with all the traveling stuff, I have so many friends through Facebook that we've actually never hung out in each other's cities before.
Yeah.
But we've hung out in San Antonio. We've hung out in New Orleans together.
Yeah.
We went to Run Amok together. So we always just hang out. So we're good friends, and like we've had a lot of amazing talks and like had great
Yeah.
experiences together, but still have never been to each other's city.
Yeah, and then when they do finally,
When
or
they
you
do.
visit, which is really cool because it's almost like, it's like, if when you're first dating or something,
Yeah.
you're bringing like your
Your significant other home to meet your parents. And
yeah,
stuff,
that's exactly what it's like, and you want to like
You're
show
like,
them around.
Hey, look at what I do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do stuff other than just drink with you.
Yeah, mom, make the grilled
Right,
cheese that you
yeah.
always make. Like you take them to the bars, and so totally sidetracked. Definitely not on topic. But if you could grab a drink of whiskey with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a hard
you didn't know this one was coming.
I mean, I
Kind of.
thought I could, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Can I just pass on this for right now? and
Yeah,
come back to
absolutely.
it?
No, I'll come back to it in like 1 minute. So, is it true that the best part about being a woman is the prerogative to have a good time?
I mean, it is pretty accurate for
All
sure.
right. About being a woman.
That was actually my song I did for
Oh, sorry.
rematch.
Oh yeah.
I remember I came out to that.
I like it.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And it was funny.
It was. Still is. So you're a cat person.
I am
It's
a cat
it's no
person.
secret.
Yeah.
So here's some questions and facts for you.
Great. Fantastic.
First of all, what the hell do cats do? Actually.
A lot of times they just knock shit over, but we knew that.
Yep. Exactly.
They do some cuddling and shit,
Yeah.
but sleep a lot, knock more things over. It's a lot of the knocking of things over.
Yeah.
Maybe just more lately because I feel like I haven't been home as often, so it's like
You come home and do you think because I've looked them in the eyes before, do you think that they're secretly judging all humans and plotting to take over the world?
yeah, and I also kind of feel like it's already like in motion.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Like
sure.
there's no like waiting. It's not like it's been plotted. It's done. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's scary. It's scary. Did you know that cats will almost never meow at another cat that's only used for humans?
Yes, I did know that.
See, I want to see how many
I
of
did
these you
know
actually. How about a cat? See, okay, hold on. A cat will never break a sweat because it has no sweat glands. Do you know that?
Okay, yeah.
That's how I know I'm not a cat.
That's it.
Yep. A cat will spend nearly 30% of its life grooming itself.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that one.
That's how I thought maybe I was a cat. So it's very confusing. This is very confusing.
I'm sweating.
And the last one is a cat's hearing rate is one of the top in the animal kingdom. cats can hear sounds as high as 65 kilohertz. A human's hearing stops at 20 kilohertz. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So-
Which kind of like, is a little suspect because she pretends like she can't hear me, and it's
Right.
like her name's Kitten. And yeah, I'm like, Kitten, like, where are you? And she's like, just
No,
pretends like, yeah. She's like, oh, I guess I didn't hear you. Sorry. So
You need to get on that
I
different
need
frequency.
to like tell her about these facts, though. That's what I'm gonna do. Go home, and be like, listen here.
I agree.
Cat.
I agree. So, and just like a shout out to all the cats listening, here's a song for you.
Shout out. She's gonna hear this too.
That was the song.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's get into another whiskey. All right. So what are we on? Aberlour A'bunadh. A lot of pronunciations of this one. This is one of my favorite scotches. It's the Sherry Bomb. Have you ever had this one?
No. No.
Maybe. So it's cask strength, non-age statement. They say 5 to 25 years in the blend. It's about $80. It's up there. Cask strength. This one's at 59.6 ABV, non-chill filtered always. So it's matured exclusively in first fill Oloroso sherry casks. So that's pretty rare in the Scotch world. First fill. Macallan is another one that does it. So this was first released in 97. This is, I think, batch 50. I think.
Batch 50.
Yeah, so A'bunadh means the original or origin in Gaelic, and it was made in homage to the founder, using only traditional methods without chill filter and other modern processes. So this is a sherry bomb if you really like sherry.
Oh, about that life.
Yeah, so that was a mistake. That was a mistake.
It's not like it's cask strength or anything.
Yeah, no. So on the nose, it was like a steel flaming rod into my nose.
Yeah, I get that too. You
Yeah.
know?
But now that's kind of gone, but
Well, it's so funny too. Like, I think especially with doing like cask strength, like doing like the starting below, like holding the glass at like your
Yeah.
chest. It's so crazy because you're really picking up like far more of that's like super like sweet cherry, like raisiny, without any kind of like it's all that I smell right now. I don't smell anything else.
the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get by it. Like the fruity esters, I think, especially in this high of spirit, definitely if you jam your nose into it,
Yeah,
it just
kills it.
Yeah. But once you get beyond that, like for me, my tasting notes, this is one of my favorites. I bought a couple bottles of this. I don't want to say how many, but I always get like my tasting notes were like spiced orange, a ton of allspice, like a lot of allspice. It's just, this is like a really good, to me, this is like a cold weather, like super cold weather scotch. And obviously those notes, those Oloroso sherry. But like some, like on the nose, some chocolate. I always get like a lot of like cocoa and stuff too. But
remember the first ever like whiskey with a sherry influence I had was at Cavalon.
yeah,
Can't remember like what.
was it the one at the Hangover Suite? Did you go to that one?
No. Oh,
Oh,
wait. It
or
was
was it
at
Herbs and Rye?
Herbs and Rye.
Oh, where they had the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember we got to like take some of those bottles home. I
got
think
this
I
there.
still have that bottle. Oh, I still have. I think I took one of those too.
yeah. I got the '92 Glenrothes. Whew. Oh, this is so good though. It's just like the reason I grabbed this kind of like is show the juxtaposition of styles of whiskey. I mean, you have something really delicate, light, easy to drink. I think this is easier to drink, but this sherry bomb, just orange, cherries, ginger, ton of chocolate, but I think this is delicious. How do you like it?
Oh my god, I love this.
But yeah, 60%, so it's like not for the faint of heart. This one, and some people, some traditionalists are like say it's sacrilege, but put some drops of water in this
Dude.
one and open it up. It's
Yeah.
so, to me, it's so good like this, but like it's so restrained.
People like also, I mean, have this conversation every day. You know, people don't
How to
run.
drink, or what?
And what?
Or I was gonna say how to drink whiskey.
Oh
or,
yeah. And I first off always say, I'm like, dude, first of all, like if you're paying for it, you're gonna drink it however the fuck you
Drink
want.
it
Like,
however
don't
you
let
want.
me tell you, don't let anyone else tell you
No.
how to drink whiskey. On that note, though, like there's nothing wrong with putting water in your whiskey, and I just explained, like, dude, those molecules, especially with that cask strength, they're just so,
Yeah.
it's so tight, and as soon as you add just like a small amount of water, they really just separate nicely to where you can actually pick out notes a lot easier and just really enjoy your whiskey,
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, if there's ever like a whiskey that I would recommend, I mean, I would love this single cube or like a nice sphere even.
Yeah.
Because this just evolves. I love it in this pure form just for what it is. It's just like this punch in your face like sherry.
Yeah.
If I ever had to describe a sherry bomb to someone, this is what I would let them drink. But it's one of my favorites. I love Aberlour. At some point,
So you said, when did this come out?
originally in '97, so quite a while ago. But I think it's really taken this like cult following.
Yeah.
In the last like 5-6 years, I've seen it like really. It's won a lot of awards and whatnot. I think it's definitely not underrated, but it's pricier too. I mean, we're talking Scotch, so. But what are some? And you've seen a lot of them. What are some whiskey trends or even drinking trends that you are sick of seeing?
Let me think. I don't know. I think just kind of maybe anyone with the idea that there's a right and wrong way. I think that's definitely been like the biggest thing. Whiskey Rocks always cracks me up.
Yeah.
Just so funny. I mean, I honestly have packs of them at home because everyone in my family thinks, they're like, oh, Katie's, she's an alcoholic. Let's just get her these for Christmas. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm like, great. So I just, that to me is just, it's such a funny little concept of just put something cold in there. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Just so
What about
funny.
like blends versus single malts or age statements? I mean, that misconception.
Always
that,
like the small batch always cracks me up too. It's
Sure.
just something.
The
I'm
marketing
just-
term,
Right.
yeah.
I'm just like, and it's so funny when people take it so seriously too. Like, oh, well, that one is a small batch. I'm like, small batch from what? From what batch?
Yeah, small batch,
Where's your
handcrafted.
Yeah, handcrafted.
Yeah.
So things like that. Yeah, they're just more like funny than anything. There are other ones that I want to say, but I probably shouldn't say. Like,
That's right.
on
You
air.
mean like specific brands?
yeah, specific brands.
I know. I have
Okay,
a few
I'll
too.
just say this. I think there are certain ones with like this crazy story. And,
Yeah.
and people just get so drawn to the story. This couple again.
Yeah, but that's George Washington's recipe.
Right.
So,
So and you know that he knows whiskey.
Yeah.
So this same couple that came in the other night that really wanted to talk whiskey, but just wanted to more talk at me than anything else. But this dude was looking at the list, and he was looking at the Bellmead 9-year sherry cask, and he's like, "So what a joke this is, right?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, like they're not even making their own whiskey," and
Oh,
I'm
so
like,
the sourcing comment.
right, and I'm like, "Oh, you want to?" He's like, "It's not like it's like like bullet and stuff like."
So he brings up another source
right,
whiskey.
right? And I'm just like, "Oh, bro, like first of all, like it's just first of all, you're just no."
So what do you do in that situation? Because I would always I would just let them have it. Usually, unless they asked a specific question, or they alluded to like being receptive.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people come in and just tell me how
They
it
just want-
was,
right.
and then it was just too much energy. And like I don't want to be that guy. I'm like, listen, you say whatever you want.
Right.
Like it's your show. I
well,
mean, do you slip it in or do
it
you?
depends. So
Yeah.
he came in wanting to talk whiskey. Like they had just moved around the corner. They wanted to make Atomic like their new bar or whatever. And so he really wanted to talk.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like if you want to talk. And then honestly, I was just having fun with him about it. Like I was just like, dude, you're so wrong. Like we're kidding around, and I'm just like, no, dude. I'm like,
Yeah.
here's this, and then he's like, well, I like Redemption Rye, and they
So,
like, bro,
another sourced
and
one,
this
yeah.
is how I'm talking. I'm like, bro, like no way. I'm like, here's how it's going down. I'm like, and honestly, it's good juice. It is,
Yeah.
and just because it's not in like their own distillery does not take anything away from their product.
Yeah.
And I'm like on it, and I always so it's like every guest, I'm like, there's a reason for every product out there, like
Sure.
no one's just making bad whiskey to make bad whiskey. Like it's not
Yeah.
bad. It's some will like things more than others, and there's a certain market, but
Yeah.
no.
There's a few craft whiskeys where I'm like, whew, man, like, I don't know what was going on
Right.
here, which is cool because like that industry is so young that the cream will rise to the top.
Right.
And eventually we're going to have some amazing
Absolutely.
American
Some
whiskeys.
newer,
Yeah, that's not just coming from Kentucky or Indiana.
sure.
So
But people who like knock Jim Beam and are like, Jim Beam. I'm like, are you kidding me?
yeah, one of
How
my
long
one
they
of my
do that?
favorites was I was at a bar and we were talking about Bullet, and I said, yeah, I mean, and they asked my favorites, and I was currently like
Yeah.
really into Four Roses, like single
Yeah.
barrels. Like I loved like,
I love that yellow label so much.
yeah, and Yellow Label,
It's
such a great,
fantastic,
but
great
this
product.
guy's like, I hate Four Roses, everything about it. I'm like, that was the one time when I'm like, you know,
That's a strong statement to
well,
make about.
and I'm like, do you know that Bullet is Four Roses? You know, so it was the one time when I just, because he was like so adamant,
Yeah.
like everything I've tasted from Four Roses, I haven't liked. Yellow Label, single barrel, cask strength, doesn't matter. And I'm like, and that's when I was like, you couldn't have thrown me a softball
Right.
any better than to say that what you say you love is actually sourced from. So it was like the one time when I'm like, dude, it's like are you doing this on purpose? Because
Yeah.
that's just what I was into at the time. I was just like, this couldn't have been like more perfect, but
Oh, it's so funny.
whiskey people and trends.
But yeah,
and,
so anyone who just takes himself too
Too
seriously
seriously?
and just makes a judgment call like that, like who the fuck are you? You were
Yeah.
24 years old. You're gonna sit here and say that this distillery
yeah,
that's been on for like been doing shit for decades. They're
Yeah.
wrong. That they're
yeah. It's like personal opinion is one thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, when you make like such strong statements, you know, it can be your personal preference not to like something,
Right.
but to say that it's bad.
bad.
Yeah, that's where you
Yeesh.
get, and it's funny too because like talking to like Jimmy and Eddie Russell at Wild Turkey and stuff. Like someone was asked like, "How do you care if people drink?" And they're like, "Listen, like bourbon has no rules. Like it never has. It never has. Like out of the bottle, out of the barrel, like
whatever.
yeah, red solo cup. It doesn't matter. There's just no. So I mean, that's kind of like I reiterate that often because I don't want this to be like a stuffy time with whiskey.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's supposed to be enjoyed. Like if you get wrapped up in, you know, it's just, especially lately, you see all these bunkers of whiskey where nothing's open, and I'm like, fuck, do you even like really just sit down, like whether it be with a cigar or just like, and just really like get into it and enjoy it, or is it like this game, this chase, and it just gets a little out of hand? But I don't know. That's just my tangent.
Yeah.
But oh man, if you had to be trapped in one Las Vegas bar for the rest of your life besides Atomic,
I was like, come on.
which would it be?
Hurts. Okay. You knew I was gonna say that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the epitome of like bunker status anyway, too.
Yeah.
Um,
Being there the rest of your life. Bartenders included, vibe of the bar. I know this is hard because you know so many people in the community, but
you know what? It's probably gonna be Herbs and Rye.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the right choice.
If it's not Atomic, it's gonna be Herbs and Rye.
You have the upstairs. So have you ever been upstairs at Earps?
No, I haven't.
It's probably better. But anyway, there's a place that you could like live up there,
Yeah.
sort of. And then there's some room. And there's a good back bar. There's good people, and it'd be a party.
It'll be a party.
Good food.
Good food. Yeah.
Yeah, Herbs is a solid pick.
Yeah. I haven't actually even been there in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like I tell Nectali, I'm like, he's like, I never see you. I'm like, dude, I can make a bar less successful and I'll come in. Like I can't.
It's busy
From
all
5
the
o'clock.
time.
There's a line.
Yeah.
I can never get at the bar. God forbid I go with someone else because there's
Yeah.
not going to be two seats,
Nope.
which is like an amazing problem to have.
Yeah.
But like, you know, part of me is like, God, make like a speakeasy only for industry people.
And then that would fill up too.
That's true. That's true. It'd
There's
be
too many of us out there.
yeah. So you've traveled quite a bit. What's your most memorable tattoo that you've gotten?
It's probably gonna be this little agave plant that I have on my arm.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing this thing where I get like a tattoo from every like cool little spot that I go to.
Yeah.
And it's usually because I have like an hour time frame, and it's like, okay, nearest tattoo. I had like
Yeah.
the
I tried to do
Googles.
the same thing, but there's been some trips where I'm like,
It's hard. Like I couldn't do
to
the
squeeze-
store Juniper Harvest. I
Yeah.
had 45 minutes, and my option was go and get a tattoo, take a 45-minute nap, and
Yeah.
I chose that
it's
nap.
nap time.
I
Yeah.
kind of wish I would have gotten that tattoo, but
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, I've been going to places, and I have like an hour to go do this. So I was in Oaxaca in, I don't know, it wasn't last year, the year before last, and went down for Day of the Dead for Fortaleza. Amazing trip.
So I've wanted to do that forever.
Oh my God. It was rough though, because I mean, we did some drinking, some partying.
Yeah.
And then I think that with the combination of the travel, because then we went down to Oaxaca and then did that was a lot more kind of like,
rustic.
roughing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, and we were doing some hiking and stuff down there too. And I do my pack like I always do, which is like 5 minutes before I have to be on the plane.
Right.
So I'm just like, throwing things in. Did not bring any kind of, smart shoes. So I had like these little black cowboy boots.
Nice.
At one point, I could not get my shoes back on because I was between like the traveling and the alcohol. Everything was so swollen. I was like, crap.
It was a rough
But
trip.
it was so much fun. And so I had to be at the airport in like 2.5 hours. It was a Sunday.
So where'd you get this tattoo?
So
I hope it's just a guy in an alley.
It was clothes.
Yeah.
I Googled. I used the Google and did
The Google.
the Google.
Yeah.
And I looked up tattoo shops. There was one open on this Sunday. Thankfully, I was with one of my coworkers.
How many stars did it have?
You know what? I think it had like 3 stars.
Perfect.
So I think that was okay.
Okay.
Thankfully, I was with one of my coworkers who like spoke Spanish, so he was able to kind of like help me get there. Cause in Guadalajara, there's a lot of like English speaking.
Oh yeah.
Oaxaca, no one speaks English.
It's like real Mexico.
Yeah, it's like real Mexico.
Yeah.
So go down to this tattoo shop. We have to kind of go through this alleyway and go up to like this little back staircase, get up to like this, and then you finally get in there and it's like a little apartment and it's cute. It actually was really cool.
Okay.
They did have like a really big bird in there, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm terrified of birds.
Is that who did your tattoo?
The bird?
Yeah.
He tried, but I was like, dude, where are those
Next.
qualifications?
Yeah.
Nice try. So this nice fellow was doing my tattoo as I'm like listening to could hear and sense the birds in the other room, and it was like giving me anxiety.
Really?
I get really weird about birds.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sitting there.
Is that why you like cats? Because they attack birds?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't like, hurt.
Yeah, sure.
Could be part of the reason.
It's like a therapy session.
I know, right?
All right. So these birds are going.
These birds are going, getting this tattoo. I had a picture of an idea of kind of what I wanted it to look like, but I wanted to adjust it a little bit. So for right now, it's like it has like 3 little leaves on each side, and then the original tattoo I saw like it had like 2, and so I was like, okay, well, trace, and I'm like pointing at my arm, like, and he's like, okay, I could do that for you, in Spanish, obviously, and so he sat down just doing it, and he needed me to like outspread like my hand, so that way he could get like a better, whatever. And he didn't know how to say that, so he was just like, hola, and like, spread out his hand. I was like, oh, yes, you want me to do this?
Yeah.
And like, this is our communication while he did my tattoo.
Awesome.
It was $30.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a good looking tattoo,
right?
though.
I mean, it's simple, but it's...
But the line works good.
The line works good, and it was fast.
Yeah,
It was clean, so...
I tried to do the same thing. I've got one in New Orleans when I went, and then I got one in South Korea. But South Korea was funny because like I looked it up, and we had 1 day left. I was there with Ramon, and it was either like we chill out, I go try to get a tattoo, or we both go to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, right up to North Korea. So that was like, I didn't really want to do it. If I go back to South Korea, I'm definitely going to do the tour because they tour up to the border. That's crazy, I guess.
Yeah.
But Sungha's like, go, definitely go. I'm like, yeah, okay, no.
He wants you
Right.
there.
So I walk into this tattoo place, and like, so to go in, you have to take off your shoes and put on sandals.
Okay.
And like, there was no sandals that were like fitting my feet. So I have a picture where it looks like I'm squeezing into like, I don't even know, like baby Adidas sandals. It was the worst. And I'm like trying to like tap around this like little it was obnoxious. But anyway, so yeah, that was my tattoo story. But little scrapbook.
Yeah.
Permanent scrapbooks.
The New Orleans one I liked. We had we were like going to dinner, and again, like I had like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we were all like,
Man, you're really cutting it close.
okay, I just had other things that I'm doing. It's hard. I barely had time to eat in New Orleans.
You're like, I'm at dinner and someone's tattooing me. Yeah.
So I was with like Raul and there were like 8 others of us. And so we went to this restaurant. I was like, no, just like, put me at the table, give me a chair. I'll be right back. And it was right around the corner. Because I'm like planning my tattoo place, like wherever we're going to go have dinner.
Of course.
No, everybody does it.
Yeah.
And so I remember just like, I'm like, okay, sit down. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get this. Okay, be right back. Literally leaving dinner, running around the corner to go get this tattoo
awesome.
done.
Which one's that?
So it's just a little pineapple.
Oh, that one's cool.
Yeah, and he did he drew it up really fast for me, and he did a killer job. And
that's
I was
cool.
like, all right, got to go back to dinner. So food's
you
probably
walk
ready.
back. It's like, and you walk back with it wrapped up.
Oh,
and all,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I don't mind the blood coming off to my food, whatever.
Oh yeah, when I got mine in New Orleans, it was like it was at Tails, so it was like whatever 100 and something degrees, 90% humidity or whatever. So like the wrapping of it just kept falling off because like it wouldn't stick to it was a mess. Everything was a mess in New Orleans. That's how it goes. But so you're the Mestizo rep, the brand rep.
Yes.
Describe the spirit a little bit and then give some advice for whiskey drinkers looking to get into like mezcal, like how to like bridge that transition.
So Mestizo is great. It's super small little brand. We have a Joven, a Reposado, and an Añejo, all 100% Espadín. Reposado is aged for 8 months, and the Añejo for 16 months.
Can you describe the Espadín versus let's just real briefly like mezcal versus tequila, just for people listening that may not know.
So tequila is made with blue agave is the varietal. With mezcal, there's like 40 some odd different agave varietals that can be used. Espadín, I'd say, is like probably the most common. El Silencio is Espadín. It's just gonna be more of like your kind of bigger brands as well.
And a lot of times it'll be listed on the bottle.
Yeah.
Like sometimes. So like with tequila, it's always going to be one.
Absolutely.
One species, but.
And then with mezcal, so it'll either say like the agave varietal or it'll say like an ensemble. So it'll be like a mixture of a few different ones. And I mean, I had such an incredible experience going down to Oaxaca and going to the different palenques and really seeing where the stuff is coming from. It was just kind of just like a humbling experience. It really just...
Yeah, talk about handcrafted.
It's insane.
Even bigger mezcal producers.
Yeah.
Like it's... Listen, if you want a rustic, like, handmade spirit made from, like, smaller, like, man.
It blew my mind, especially coming from... I mean, Fortaleza is still very handcrafted and stuff as well, but... I mean, it was just nothing compared to going down there, like hiking up to this little like palenque. And so all agaves, they grow differently. Espadín is definitely more prominent down there. Has like the bigger leaves and are just... You can just find them a little bit more easily. But there are other ones like Tequila-centric, which grows literally on the side of a mountain. So if you're going to harvest it, people have to like climb up this mountain and like are chopping down this agave plant.
So that one's probably not very cheap.
No, it's not.
When it's made. Yeah.
And so we were able to try all of this like while we were down there, and they're literally pouring all of the juice into like plastic like empty Coke bottles and stuff, like the empty 2-liter bottles. And it was so neat. We were able to like take some with us. So they're like, okay, I mean, you guys can have some, but you need like a vessel. So we're like chugging our water bottles.
Awesome.
Like here. So I brought back so much like really cool mezcal. But like the Tequila-centric, which is just, honestly, I mean, you can get that in the States, but there are other ones out there that were just like Tobla is definitely more common too. But all have their own different, like flavor profiles. And then within that, there are different types of agave. So like Americano is like a really popular one. So that's Espadín. And it's just kind of the way that the shape of the plant is. And then you have like Maracuche and Aracuche. There's so many different varietals.
So would you kind of relate that a little bit to not only a sense of like terroir, because that happens with tequila and mezcal especially, based on which producers, drastically different, but the species of agave to kind of like mash bills in whiskey?
Definitely.
Could you see that?
For sure. I mean, it's definitely a little more interesting when they do like ensembles. I know like Marca Negra has a really nice one.
Okay.
And that one's really unique because, they're putting together like an Espadín, a Maracuche, and whatever, like maybe like a tobola in there, and like having it in your glass and really being able to pick out those different characteristics.
Sure.
You're like, I know Espadín gets this flavor. I know Tobola has this flavor.
Yeah.
And so it's just, in that way, that mash bill is just, it's really unique. And it just, so I mean, if there's anything that I can like kind of say about mezcal, it's just, I think just realizing that when things are priced a certain way, it's because that money is going really back to that community. I've seen those communities. Sure. And I've seen some bigger brands, some smaller brands, and I've honestly like been able to see where that stuff is going to.
Right. And
it kind of breaks my heart a little bit when I see mezcal for a cheaper price.
Right.
Because I'm like, it hurts. Like
there are bigger brands that one recent, won't mention the name, but whatever, it got acquired by a really big company, and they're kind of the commercial mezcal now. Mm-hmm. A lot of solid products.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're definitely not going to knock it, and they really are responsible, I think, for bringing that category up a huge notch. But you're right, like mezcal, it's still that rustic, like small.
It's special, And what we're gonna do, our next educational event is gonna be on agave and agave types. So like sotol,
very cool.
Which is technically not agave, but it's a cousin of. But we're gonna do a whole thing of that, and I'm really excited because whenever I talk about mestizo with anyone else too, or mezcal in general, it's it's more than just like a spirit to me. Like this is a culture. They've been doing this for centuries.
Sure.
And it's not because of it's some fad that's now going on in America. Like they've been doing this because their grandparents did it.
Yeah.
And it's their livelihood, and it's so special to me, and I want that to be equally special to everybody else who buys it and drinks it and talks about it. And but honestly, I feel like it's great. It's not as competitive as other spirits because the more people who order mezcal, obviously it helps us all out.
Sure.
And I think it's just kind of, asking questions from like a consumer point. Like I think that's asking questions about mezcal and like having hopefully the bartender can help kind of break it down, the differences.
Right.
That's always like my favorite. Someone comes in and they're like, so I've been hearing a lot about this mezcal, and I'm like, oh yeah,
one with the worm
in
it.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
My Uber driver said that to me last night. He's like, because I was at a meeting with Mestizo, and
anyone listening, that's not what we're talking about.
No.
It's not the worm in it.
There's no worm.
Yeah.
One freaking brand does one thing one time, and you get a rep. But
I remember when I was like 10, we went to Tijuana because we went to Disneyland.
Never been to Tijuana.
Oh man, it was a blast. My mom like let me like bargain for myself. I was like 10 years old, so she'd give me money, and like she's like, well, he's gonna tell you a price, and then you tell him a lower price, and then you have to come to an agreement. And I was like 10 years old. She sends me, and there was this full rubber Ninja Turtle mask, and like I remember bargaining with this guy, and I gave him the money, and like was wearing it all around. It was crazy. So that was in Tijuana, but we brought back like 2 bottles of like whatever it was, like mixto garbage, and it had the worm in it. So like, so you think a smooth transition for whiskey drinkers is like, would you say Isla Scotch too?
Yeah, and I would say going like, there's not a lot of mezcal out there that does like an aging process,
right?
But like if you were like talking mestizo, I would definitely recommend like Añejo or the Reposado. It would like blow you away, like how easily that transition can be.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's always interesting. I part of the show that was fun to me is like getting people to see like the bartender's perspective, but also like branching out into like if you're a whiskey drinker and you want to get into beer or want to get into like other spirit categories, there's a way to kind of like there's a bridge to get over there. So, but yeah, so that was fun. Whiskey and anything you want to say to the people out there?
Well, if you've made it this far,
I hope so.
Appreciate you.
They should have.
That's awesome.
So thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
we'll play your outro music.
The cutest things on earth. Cats like mouses, cats like meat, cats like
All right,
boxes,
everyone.
cats like sleep, cats like
Thank you,
losers,
Katie
cats
Cruz.
like running,
Thank
cats
you.
like
Where can the people come and see you when they come to Las Vegas?
Work at a cute little bar called Atomic Liquors in the kitchen at Atomic in downtown Las Vegas.
Go visit Katie and drink mezcal and whiskey and eat food. It's fun. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Cats like sunshine, cats like stretching, except of grumpy cat. Grumpy cat like...
Thank you all so much for joining us for the Whiskey Talkin' podcast. If you dig the show, please share it with your friends and family that might also enjoy it. Follow the show on Facebook, Whiskey Talkin' Podcast. Also on Instagram and Twitter under the name Whiskey Talkin' PC. The website's whiskeytalk.in. Feel free to contact me with thoughts, show ideas, whiskey suggestions, or anything your whiskey heart desires. Thank you again, and remember,
If it got out of hand, it was the whiskey talking.